It's time for Downtown Hockeytown, presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today's guest is Helene St. James of the Detroit Free Press. Helena, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again today.
My pleasure.
Art, what are you doing?
Oh, Helena's here? I'm sorry, I was just reading this great new book that about the Red Wings. It's fantastic. It's the men and moments that made the Detroit Red Wings the Big 50. Oh my gosh, Helena, you wrote this thing. Congratulations.
Thank you, Art. It was a joy to write, and I'm glad it's doing so well.
Go ahead, Art. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Danielle. I can continue reading. I was just on the Scotty Bowman stuff. Fantastic.
You go ahead and read. You go read. I'm going to ask Helena a question. I was going to say, I feel like the feedback, all that I've seen about the book, Helena, has been so positive, especially on Twitter and things like that. Are you feeling good about actually having it released and people be able to buy it and people being able to read it, all the hard work you've put into it?
You know, Danielle, I absolutely am. And I'll be honest, when the pandemic hit, I was a little apprehensive, especially, obviously it's affected being able to do book signings and such. But the feedback and the response has been excellent. People reaching out to me for a personalized copy. I know that local Barnes and Noble already has another order in because they've been sold out. So yeah, it's been, it was a lot of work. I enjoyed the work, but it was a lot of work. And then I learned that a manuscript is like a boomerang and that it keeps coming back to you for more edits. So finally, to see it in its final product, this actually came out last month. Just been a great joy and something really, wonderful to have happen in this very challenging year. And, we all know we should be covering a road game probably right now, or talking about how the Wings are on a 7-game winning streak to start the season. And instead we're sitting here desperate for hockey. So I'm just super pleased with it.
So you wrote an article that predicted what the Red Wings lines will be next season. And your top line consisted of Valtteri Filppula, Robbie Fabry, and Anthony Mantha in the forward core. Now that they have guys like Nemetsnikov and Bobby Ryan to fit into their forward core, how hard was it for you to decide what the lines would be?
Well, that was exactly part of it, Danielle. It was so refreshing to actually have choices for a change instead of going like, okay, Larkin, Mantha, Bertuzzi, and then no one, Art, me, you.
So really, there we go. So, I love that line.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of grit. we might not get off ice very fast, but in break, my decision to break it up, I just wanted to see Mantha with more of a playmaker than Larkin. And I think, they had talked last season about Robbie Fabry started out as a center. I think that's where he's played most of his career. So, give him a look there. And then, just to have a defensive presence and a kind of safety net there. And Filppula, let's not forget, he is a much better passer. He's a much better player than we saw last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's getting up there in the years like we all are. But he's an excellent passer. So I think there's two guys who maybe could feed Mantha. I think we could, if he stays, injury free, maybe even a shortened season, finally see him hit the 30-goal plateau. So I just thought that was a line that had some potential. I know people may wonder, well, why is Filppula on that line? Like I said, he's a better. His skating is still strong. He's good defensively, and like I said, to me, he's one of the better passers on the team.
Well, I think what this does point out, this article, is just the depth that the Red Wings have, what Steve has been able to do. Your second line, I just want to read them real quickly because I have a question to ask you. Bertuzzi, Larkin, and Bobby Ryan on the second line. Glendening, Nemetsnikov, and Zadina on the third line. Then your fourth line is really interesting. Again, stating their depth. You have Ernie Helm or Franz Nielsen and Sam Gagner. And I guess who I think it might be a forgotten man, because I forget they even signed him, because it was so long ago, but is Matthias Bromia, who's doing very well in the Swedish league and a little older. Svechnikov they have to do something with, and then Timashov. I mean, I guess what I really like about this story that you wrote in Sunday's Free Press is it really does. The Red Wings suddenly have options that they haven't had for many, many years, it seems.
Right. And actually, I definitely think Svechnikov's best chance to show he belongs in the lineup is bumping somebody off that fourth line, maybe either a Helm or a Nilsson. I think you want Gagne in the lineup, especially to have for the power play. And obviously there's something about Adam Ernie that Steve likes. I mean, he's had him in Tampa. He's brought him here. So, and to me, what I like about that line. Now, I would think Brame, you keep him in Sweden just because of the way things are.
Right.
And then see where things are next season. And who knows? I could see Sam Gagne working out here for a few years. I like his. I know they like how he is in the locker room as well. And I think he's kind of a very good. He's a very good talker, but just very honest. I think really good guy at setting examples for younger players and such. But I like the third line too. I think you take a little pressure off Sedina by putting him on that line. And Nemesnikov, I'm intrigued to see what he can do. But and Glendening, again, he kind of plays the Philpott role there, at speed, kind of a safety net as well. So I just think that this is a mix where, hey, you might actually have 3 scoring lines instead of just 1.
Well, that'd be nice. That would be very nice.
I want to ask you about another player specifically, and I know Art will appreciate this because he is a big fan of Giovanni Smits. And when you look at his chances of making the Red Wings and cracking that lineup, and as we've talked about, there are a lot more forwards on the Red Wings now, a lot more depth. So what do you think his chances are? What do you see for his future?
It's interesting. I mean, I think so much is uncertain. We don't know what's the AHL going to be like. And, I mean, is there going to be a scenario in which maybe the NHL expands the roster so they can play a more compact schedule, play more games, so that would give Giovanni Smith a better chance. I think, in the little glimpse we saw of him, I like his physicality. I think he has a great attitude, and he seems to have learned how to be physical without, taking retaliatory penalties, which would mean he would be benched, So exactly. I think he's going to be a good fit. I don't know if it's as soon as next season. I just think there's so much, we don't know. And Michael Rasmussen too. Now, do they keep him overseas if he's playing well, if he's playing? I just feel like the answer to everything right now is if, or it depends on the pandemic. So unfortunately.
I know goal is all, it's Bernier and it's Thomas Greiss, and they're both going to play a lot, especially if the schedule is compacted. As you said, we just don't know. I like your defensive pairings. I like Stahl and Hronek, Nemeth and Stetcher, DeKaiser and Merrill, because I really think, as you said, Seider is going to spend time in Sweden. Lindstrom is playing there. So when you look at it, this top 6, I don't, maybe in various different combinations we can interchange them, but the defense seems to be pretty much set.
I think so too, and I think especially on the first 2 pairings, you have a left shot and a right shot, which, certainly out there, that would make Mike Babcock happy. We know how he felt about left shot and right shot pairings. So, but even, for the Wings, it's nice to have. And I think, again, you can have, you actually, I mean, again, I think the 3, the top 4 they had last season, beyond Hronek and Nemeth, really, because let's remember, by this time last season, DeKaiser was already gone. I mean, their defense was just such a patchwork that, Art, I think you could have snuck in there and people wouldn't have noticed.
I think Steve thought about it. I truly do.
I noticed how many times he would, we could see him where he sat in the manager's box and he would look up at you and be like, look at the time, how much time. So absolutely. And let's not forget Alex Biega, who I think he's a really good guy to have on a team. Like, what you get in him, no flash, but great dependability in my mind. And then there's Dennis Cholowski, does he see an opening here? I mean, he had a chance last season. I don't think, it wasn't as aggressive as they needed him to be. Does he still fit into the rebuild? And if so, where this is again an opportunity for him to show up at training camp and show, hey, I belong. We know he's an NHL caliber skater. He's got great offense. It's just can he weigh the risk so that coaches don't want to be like, no, you're too risky. The puck ends up in the back of the other team's net more often than good plays happen out there.
One last question for you, Helena. And you mentioned Danny DeKeyser briefly when talking about the blue line. And we know that he missed a majority of last season, went out in late October, early November last season, and obviously hasn't skated since then. Is he still sort of a question mark for the Red Wings, or do you think he's going to come back and be as strong as he was beforehand?
To me, he absolutely is, because I think he's a March birthday, so he'll be almost, let's say even the season starts in February, and he'll by then not have played in almost a year and a half. I mean, that's a long layoff, right. And like he hasn't been able to do the kind of quality game shape skating that would be necessary. So to me, he's absolutely a question mark. Can he resume his career after being off for so long? And that's where, again, I think, then you have the depth with Biega on there and Cholowski, that so that they should not be in the situation they were in last year. I believe they ran through 14 defensemen last year just because of injuries and trying to find something to work. So yeah, but I think you have to wonder, what can they get out of Danny DeKeyser at this point?
Yeah, and the reason I really ask is because in the 8-9 games that he did play, he was having a really good season so far before he went down with the injury.
He was, and I think people overlook, no, is Danny DeKeyser a number one defenseman? No, he's not. But he was on the wings because of the state of their defense corps. So when he went out, it really was a huge blow for them. But I really think I was impressed with how Philip Hronek responded, and, not just the offense he produced, but the hard minutes he played, and he stood up to it. And I think he was still only 21, 22 years old. So I think you really have to be impressed with how he handled the extra pressure. But beyond him, I mean, pairing him with Nemeth, they really, it was just such a patchwork on their defense. But they absolutely, to me, as much as, you miss Anthony Mantha's offense when he was out of the lineup, and his injuries were, anytime he came back, then Athanasiou would come out. Just as Athanasiou came back, Sadina got hurt, like it was just. But I still think out of all of them, if you could have had Danny DeKeyser back, there'd have been some more stability on the back end, and that would have made the whole team just a little bit better.
Well, Helena, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and talk some Red Wings hockey. And hopefully we have some actual Red Wings hockey, some good news out of the NHL very soon.
I got to get back to reading. Thank you. I gotta,
thank you,
Art. Get back to
thank you, Daniella.
A big thank you to Labatt Blue Light as well for presenting Downtown Hockeytown. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light.